Welcome back to the second half of qualifying for the 12 hours of Nürburgring to help raise money for Mind. Welcome to Simsport Racing. Alex Goldschmidt, Dan Handover and Steve Proudley back once with you again. Dan, very exciting GT3 session, but now we go on to GT4s. We have 14 teams set to go into battle for pole position, bringing us to a grand total of 47 cars for this weekend's festivities, but a very different proposition altogether, going from a purpose-built sports car in a GT3 to something that's pretty much production-based in GT4.
Exactly. You've got to be very mindful they are two completely different cars to drive. You really have to, depending on which car you are driving, you have to almost completely change your driving style. As you said, it's much more road car based. Your braking zones are a lot earlier. You've just got to be generally smoother with the actual transition. The suspension compresses more. There's a bit more flex generally in the car. It's not as obviously track focused. It's not fully track focused as a GT3 is. So you do have to change your driving style quite drastically, actually, between the cars. Definitely.
And Steve, you've driven GT4 machinery on Assetto Corsa Competizione. What are the biggest struggles that the drivers are going to have through this around the circuit here? Because it's a very different proposition from a GT3 to a GT4 car.
The biggest problem you have with the GT4s is tyre temps and brake temps, to be honest. Keeping heat in those tyres to keep them at the optimum grip levels. It's quite often a compromise, to be honest with you, and it's learning to drive with that compromise. That's the biggest problem with the GT4s, I would say.
So another half-hour qualification session. We've got another set of who's who in this grid. But before we get qualifying truly underway, let's just refresh your memories about what Mind is doing for better mental health.
Shows like Cyberbully can really help young people build up the courage to ask for help, or to accept that actually what is going on in the classroom or online isn't acceptable, and I feel like it inspires young people to pick up the phone or talk to a parent or just get help, really. And I think after Cyberbully was aired in the UK, we had the anti-bullying line on afterwards, and they had a massive influx of calls from kids and teenagers who have been too frightened to speak out and try and stop whatever is happening, and I feel like it gave them the confidence to do that. In Casey's situation particularly, after her friends and family found out about her mental health issues and her struggles online, they didn't judge her, they accepted it, and they were very forgiving and very helpful. And I think seeing that for someone who may be going through something similar would hopefully be uplifting, and it should be uplifting. No one's going to judge you, and there is people out there who really do just want to help you. And yeah, I hope that's the message that people get from series like Cyberbully.
Hello everyone and welcome to an onboard lap of the Nürburgring GP circuit here on ACC in the Aston Martin GT4 car. First things first, maximise the exit on the last corner. We don't want to be running too wide, we don't want the back end step out. We want to gain as much time as we possibly can going down the main straight into turn 1. We've got a bit of time to compose ourselves here, we've got a bit of time to relax, which is needed for a very, very tricky lap ahead of us. Looking out for the 100 metre board, braking very, very hard all the way down into second gear, try not to step into that ABS too much. Turning in a little bit earlier, jumping that crest on the apex of turn 1. Turn 2, leave it in third gear, in the middle of the track, wait for that car to rotate in, clip the curb on the inside if you can to try and drag that car around, and use as much of the exit curb as you dare. Turn 3, second gear, turning in a lot earlier than you think you can, cutting the corner a lot more than you think you can as well, to try and straight line turn 4. Don't run too wide on the exit though, it's very, very easy to get a slow down or to get an off track on turn 4. Next two corners, turn 5 and turn 6. Braking down for the left-hander, snatch fourth gear, a little bit of throttle before you brake again, down another gear into third, wait for that car to turn in and wait for the car to feel comfortable when you start applying the power to then eventually run wide. If you do apply the power too soon, you'll run too wide and you'll get another off track. down to the bottom hairpin, all the way into third gear. You feel like you can go in a second, don't leave it in third. Almost V-shaped to that corner if you can, to try and maximise the speed you carry up into the Schumacher S's. We're going to be riding over the curb and again grab the two wheels onto the left-hand side curb on the inside, quickly down to fourth, then back up to fifth again to get that car turned in for the second half of the S's. Next corner, again, all the way to the right-hand side of the track, as much as we possibly can without getting it off track. A little bit of a slide going on there. You can compose it, you can control it with the nature of these next two corners, so you don't actually lose too much time. Again, for that corner back there, quickly grab third gear to get that car turned in, and once we can get that, straight back up to fourth. Got a bit of time to relax now, trying to make sure that we know what we're going to do, and that we're going to be precise for the last chicane. Down 2 gears in the fourth, try and grab that curb on the inside of the first part of the chicane before you try and snatch the car all the way to the right hand side really, really quickly, making sure the car is composed. And again, last corner, we don't want to be running too wide, no understeer, no oversteer, perfect exit as good as we can on the last corner. We haven't got that long running up to the start finish line, and that is a lap of the Nürburgring GP track here on ACC in the Aston Martin GT4 car.
So we just had a brief explanation through a hot lap on GT4 around the Nürburgring, and a big thank you to Dan for providing the voiceover for that. But really, they're just going through the latter throes of practice as we speak here at the moment. So, Steve, let's have a look at the grid from GT4s. Obviously, we've got you're a bit part of the Simsport Racing. Of course, we've got the number 4 Porsche Cayman. They've got Mark Neutelings, Paul Lindsay, Reese Wiggin and Adam Isalovich with the latter qualifying for them tonight. You've got Steve Haley in the 42 Simsport 1 Porsche Cayman with Aris Vasilikos, Steve Hinden and Chris Pinchbeck, another good crew there as well. But then you look at who else we've got. We've got the likes of Tobin Lee with Zan's Show Simsport, who will have the likes of Aidan Millward and 4-time British Touring Car champion Colin Turkington, of all people, in the 87 Aston Martin Vantage, who's got Matt Webb alongside them. And then we go to Dan's team, the 97 Aston, with Will Dendy, who's in for qualifying, with Luke Bennett and Matt Richards, also some very, very credible pedallers, along with who we've got there. But that's a very interesting thing, that we've also got another champion in terms of real-life racing with us here for the charity event.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a big thank you to the sim racing community again, all coming together. And in the lower class, as it were, the GT4s, we've still got some big names driving and some very fast drivers. You know, I mean, James Parker, he's no slouch, and he's going to be hunting for pole position. I'm confidently informed that Tobin Lee is not slow either. I think he's going to be one to watch. The Simsport guys, you know, they'll be putting the best efforts in. I know Adam will be trying hard, Steve Haley, that they'll all be going for it. We've got Bliv from Team Terror Racing. He's not slow. He's a decent hot lapper when it comes to qualifying, as we've seen in some of the Simsport championships, and also I've seen in his own championships over at Terror Racing. So yeah, it's a full of quality, full of talent, and I'm sure there'll be some very good times, and I think it'll be equally as close.
Yeah, very, very true there, Steve, I must admit. But also, looks like qualifying now getting underway here. 19 degrees air temperature, 27 degrees track temperature here at the Nürburgring once again, with a half-hour session. Dan, I just wanted to come to you briefly again. We were mentioning about, when I was talking with Steve, about the tyre temps, the brake temps. It's a very different animal, a GT4 car, and they've really got to get it right. You've got to be more on point with this than in sometimes you have to be with a GT3 car in some respects, don't you? Because of the fact that it's pretty much a production-based vehicle.
Absolutely. The nature of the vehicle and the nature of how the car behaves, you've got to be a lot more patient with a GT4 compared to a GT3, fully track focused. You can really wrestle that car around. I've found it that the GT3 responds to what you tell it to do. It's very much you give it direction, it will then do that. It will do then what you've asked it to. Whereas a GT4, you have to sort of almost wait for the car to do its own thing on its own time. You sort of give it a gentle nudge, an input of this is where I want to go. You have to wait for the car to respond, wait for everything to compress, get the suspension ready, and you all have to sort of load it up a lot more gradually than you would have to with the GT3. So yeah, it's very much taking it back, a couple of notches and really being a lot more smooth, a lot more cautious, and a lot more patient with, as you said, what is essentially, almost a road car.
Yeah, and this is where it's going to get rather interesting. James Parker, who's actually someone I know very, very well. I knew him before he got into the whole sim racing thing, and I know he's an integral part of Coach Dave Academy. He's based about half an hour from my current location, so watch out for him in the 889 Aston Martin. Obviously, we saw his compatriot in the 888 McLaren, Samir Ibrahimi, doing a very good job putting Coach Dave Academy 888 McLaren as Mooney GT donates. Is that $50 I've just seen on the screen?
That was
just
indeed.
There. $50. Oh, that's the biggest donation of the evening so far. So thank you to that individual for doing so. So the drivers now. Here's Bliv AK in the. It's good to see that he loves to cross over his numbers, doesn't he? He normally runs in our Simsport ACC Season 3 for GT3. He normally is in the terrorizing Godzilla that is the Nissan GTR, and he pulled out one of the best moves, I think, of the GT3 Season 3 races so far at Laguna Seca, where he literally went barrel rolling around the outside. If you remember that one, Steve, that was definitely something that we can expect from the caliber of Bliv AK, and he's sticking with Porsche because obviously, unfortunately, there's no GTR in GT4 machinery.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Bliv's a talented driver, and he's going to show us what he can do now in this qualifying session. But just to reiterate, it will take these guys a couple of laps to get everything up to temperature. The tyre pressures are literally when they come out the pit box onto doing their out lap. Their tyre pressures are anything from 2-3 psi down. So they do need to do a couple of laps to get everything up to speed. So they'll carry a bit more fuel to do a slightly longer stint to get everything optimum. But yeah, he's well on his way to that now.
Yeah, looks like there's a lot of good luck wishes coming in via the respective restreams, obviously on Facebook and also on YouTube. We're also streaming on Twitch as well. A big shout out to the Sim Racing Holland crew, who actually gave us a follow on, who actually subscribed on our YouTube channel. Big thank you to them. They're running in the number 24 BMW. And speak of which, they've even put a Dutch number plate on the back of it. That just shows how creative these drivers have been with these livery choices. And again, we've got Tom van der Meer in the number 24. He's qualifying, and they've got Frans van der Linden and Patrick Vanst in the car this weekend. The BMW in ACC, Steve, has been a pretty good car. We've seen it in GT4 Season 2 with the likes of Tim Fulbrook and Michael Hafferden and Angus Martin really being able to wrestle the Munich Beast. But this could be a car that could be well suited to the circuit here in the Eifel regions at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, it's definitely a car that likes to stretch its legs, and it gets the opportunities to do that here at the Nürburgring more than some of the other tracks. It doesn't like tight, twisty stuff. As you say, we've seen that in the GT4 season, currently going on with Simsport. The last round it did reasonably well when it could stretch its legs at Bathurst. I'm thinking Dan should offer some coaching lessons to James Hartnell, because James has mentioned in the chat that his GT3 doesn't do what he wants it to do. So maybe Dan, if you want to hook him up and just give him some lessons.
But absolutely more than happy to.
Yeah, I think a swift kick up the backside, just saying, come on, get your house in order, please, James. As James Parker now goes top of the timesheet, so 2-minute 3.297, nearly 0.2 quicker than the 87 Aston Martin of Zancho Simsport's Tobin Lee. Steve Haley in the number 42 Porsche for Simsport 1 is rounding out the top three. And then we have the number 1 PPR Esports Audi R8, the sole Audi in this field. Alex Sable rounds out the top 4. And there is the PPR Esports. I love this kind of livery. For those that were watching the as Cody Pride goes, yeah, Audi on the YouTube chat. But this is one of those liveries that Dan looks a little bit stealth. But then you have these nice sort of like accents. It looks like someone's done a professional rap on that, haven't they?
Yeah, it looks very similar. Do you know what it reminds me of? Especially with the colour scheme, I'm sure we'll all agree on this. It very much reminds me of the JPS Lotus livery from the F1 back in the 70s.
Yes.
And I really quite like that. Not going to lie.
Yeah, I know that Cameron Fife is itching to get going for round 4 of season 2 for GT4, which takes place next Wednesday, which is the 7th of October, the 4th of 6 rounds. So we head to Circuit Zandvoort for that. But yeah, we see that Will Dendy, I think, had an initial connection issue trying to join the server, but he's now rejoined. Looks like he's dropped out of it again. And Steve, in terms of sort of like the fact that sometimes some drivers are having trouble getting into the servers, that can also hamper their efforts within the race, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a one-shot qualifying thing. It's the only qualifying session. So if he's having connections issues, that's obviously going to hamper him getting a good lap in. But also, unfortunately, with ACC running all these lovely liveries, it does create a lag on the server where the screen will freeze for the driver, and that can be up to sort of 2, even maybe 3 seconds. Which, if you imagine you're barreling down the straight into a corner and all of a sudden you've frozen, it can cause a few issues. So yeah, it's not ideal.
A little bit of a run wide there by Tobin Lee in the number 87. Still rounding out the top 2. There's Sebastian Handler from Grifax. Just looking at what the team name is, because that's what I'm getting confused. It is Grifax Engineering in the number 11. Another like some of the non-custom liveries that we've got, especially something like this, is quite nice to see. A little bit of deep black followed by a bright bit of Banana Man yellow there, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the timing sheets, and as we were saying about the tyres coming up to temp and everything, you can just see how many drivers are now actually on their best laps, as the pole position time has just been improved ever so slightly. So yeah, the cars, the tyres are coming to the guys, the lap times are going to start coming to them, and again, it's about that track evolution as well as the tyre temps.
So at the moment, for those wondering how much money we have raised so far, we are at £1,569.54. That's just under 40% of the target, as Ugo La Sala is in the 135 Spartan Racing Team Aston Martin, currently P12 on a 2 minutes 8.979. And well, there's a familiar name in that one, Steve, as well, Gianluca De Luca.
Absolutely, yeah, another Simsport regular taking to the track for the charity race. And talking of liveries, I actually quite like that one. It's different.
Yeah, that's definitely different. I hate to think what noise it makes when the horn's blasted. You probably have Gerard Butler going, "This is Sparta," shouting in the background, possibly. But yeah, that's one of the most intricate liveries I think we've got on either grid. What do you think of that one, Dan?
It's definitely different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thinking, I admire people's ability to do liveries like this. I'm, in my personal opinion, this is a livery that I personally wouldn't normally have on a car.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, kudos for people that are able to really, to do some liveries. And like we've seen across the entire grid, there's some really, really good liveries, and of all different manner of things. So.
Yeah, well, Kieran Vidago, who's going to be running in the Team Terra Racing 747 Porsche, says, well, that is quite the livery. We're now on board with Adam Isalovic in the number 4 Porsche Cayman, as he's now coming towards the end of the lap. I think he's going to be very shortly heading towards Advan. So this is where things get a bit different. And Dan, with regards to the different characteristics of GT3 and GT4, especially when you're committing through a corner like Advan, the GT4, from my honest opinion, the suspension is going to be, more road production heavy. So that's going to really give drivers a bit more of a challenge going through Advan and then heading into the NGK chicane on the tail end of the lap.
Yeah, exactly. In the hot lap I did say that you have got a little bit of breathing room going down the back straight, although that's not to say, that right-hander, I think it's going to be interesting in the race, because if you are on the outside going through that fast right-hander, unfortunately there's only normally one way that you go if you try to go around the outside, or if you're slightly offline, and that's onto the grass. With the cars, you say, having more road-focused, a road-focused car generally, as we've seen Adam having a little bit of an off, just manages to keep it out of the barrier. Fair, well saved there, but I think he's going to quit out and go straight back into pits as he has done. Yeah, you do have to, you can't take as many liberties as you can with, especially when you've got less aero as well. That's another thing, another big factor. Not only is the car much more of a road focused car, but you've also got the fact that there's so much less aero. You can't lean on the aero as much. You have to really focus, really only lean on the physical grip that you have in the tyre adhesion.
Very well put there, Dan, as Tobin Lee has got to within 15 thousandths of James Parker as we're fast approaching the halfway point of qualifying. That was a good lap from the 87 from Sancho Simsport there, wouldn't you say, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I saw that lap come in while you were chatting there, and I thought, well, we thought the GT3s were close, but these boys are going to give us a proper show now. It's absolutely awesome. Steve Haley improved on a previous lap, so he's moved up into a solid third. And Bliv, as we thought, he's moved into fourth now with his doing his best lap on his last lap with a 2:04.158. So the times are coming down. Adam Azalovic, even though he had that off, he's done a 2:04.1. It's good enough to put him in fifth at the moment. And there's still a few guys putting in faster laps as we see Steve Haley trying to take a bit of a shortcut there and heading back to the pits.
Yeah, that was, I think that was through the Schumacher S's there, and he just literally straight lined the second half of it. As we go back to Tobin Lee, once again in the number 87 Aston Martin. Going through the first corner, through into the Haukhaken, and then through into the Mercedes arena. And in many respects here, Dan, obviously, we do know that you are racing. You're with Will Dendy and the rest of the team, the 97 Aston. How has the build-up been from a team perspective on getting to grips with this GT4?
To be honest, it's been a steep learning curve, I think is the best way to put it. I've had, we've all had some really good support from the team. From Zancho, we've had both Ed and Nick that have really helped us out with the with the setups, and also in terms of actually when we're out on track, when we're testing, there's been some really good support, not only from those guys but from the team as well. We all rally rally with each other. We all sort of look after each other, give each other pointers where we feel that we can sort of all improve from one another. So in terms of a team perspective, it's been really good. This is actually my first big event that I'll be competing in and participating in on ACC, and it's really good. It's really nice to see also as well to see the sim develop as well. It's been out for it has been out for quite a while now, and to see the developments that has been made, that have been made over the over the months, it's really good to and I think this has really started to become a very good community based simulator as well, which is really good to see. But no, in terms of from a team perspective and a driver perspective, it's been really good, and the build up is almost as enjoyable, I find, as the actual race. That's
really good. There's a cheers going on for Lucas Müller in the SG Stown number 299 Mercedes AMG GT4. Now at the moment, Steve, between 4th to 8th, it is covered by just under 0.3 of a second. Now we thought that the battle between the top 3 for GT3 pole was close enough. That's even closer when you consider you've got 5 drivers battling for 4th place.
Yeah, and it's all going to change. It's not. It all could change. I think it's all going to change in the last 15 minutes. I don't think they've done jostling for position just yet. I mean, James Parker's he's knocking on the door of a 2-minute 2 now, which is an absolutely awesome time in a GT4. He's just extended his gap to Tobin by 0.2. So he's he's just sort of saying, "Bring it, Tobin. Come on, if you think you're fast enough, son." So he's really putting the challenge down, putting the hammer down, and like we said, the times are hotting up, and they are going to keep getting better.
So at the moment, with just over 14 minutes of qualification still to go for GT4, it's the Coach Dave Academy 889 Aston Martin of James Parker that leads by 0.21. Well, make that 3.5 tenths. He's done a 2:02.937.
What
Fantastic
lap. That was brilliantly poised.
Absolutely incredible from from Parker. Really well done. That was that's a time that's going to be. Is that going to be beat? I think. that's the question we now got to ask ourselves. We've got 13 and a half minutes left. But
Can I? I'm going to throw another question. Is that going to be further extended? Is the next one?
Well,
I'm gonna put there? We've still got under 13 and a half minutes of this session. I know Tobin Lee is a very, very quick driver. Okay, he's 3.5 tenths off of provisional pole at the moment. Steve Haley is 8 tenths off of James Parker. So, and that will, as Amy Walker mentions, that will be hard to beat, yes, but it could be beaten by the driver that's just set it, who's just gone into the pits. Bliv AK rounds out the top 4 ahead of Adam Isalovic, Alex Sable, and then you've got Sean Bennett, Lucas Muller, Valentin Knechtel, and then Johan Nell rounding out the top 10 positions. Tom van der Meer rounds out the top 11 in the sole BMW with Ugo La Sala in the 135. Aston Martin in 12th. Looks like Sebastian Handler has yet to set a competitive lap time. And obviously Will Dendy, I think Dan looks to be struggling with connection issues, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, I believe this will be a bit of a shame. It'll be a starting at the back for us come Saturday. Although, as I think, Steve, you mentioned this as well, while it is quite nice to have that, I always find that, especially qualifying in terms of endurance event, it's nice to have that sort of mental barrier for yourself and actually to push past that. If you can get a really good qualifying, you give yourself. I always find that it gives you just a slightly better sort of mentality when you're actually going into the race, because you know the times you're able to achieve, you know what you've been able to do. As we've just seen Will Dendy on the chat, so frustrating. Tobin and I were super close. It is one of those things where we would have really liked to have seen Will put in some good times, and I'm sure Will would have been challenging for definitely in the top 3 in a podium spot.
And speaking of Mr. Dendy, he's just popped up on YouTube. Good evening, Wendy. Sorry, I had to get in there first for that one. There was a bet between me and Dan, and I said I might not. I'm normally the professional, but I decided I'm going to throw caution to the wind. Yeah. Actually, you know what? What we'll have to do, Will Dendy, if you join us if you get to the green room, we'll get him into the booth actually, because it'd be nice to have another voice in the commentary box. Especially from a team perspective. So I think we might have him very, very shortly joining us. I think James Parker still having... Oh, he's back out. He's not back out on track. He's staying in pit lane. I think he thinks that Tobin Lee's not going to get any closer on that one, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just seen Sebastian Handler in the... jump into 4th place there with a 2:03.96, so he's on his last lap. That's a great time from him. Adam Zailovic improved on his last lap with a 2:04.1, so he's knocking on the door of the 2:03s. But is that 2:02.937 going to get beaten? I don't think so. I think Tobin may get a bit closer. He's certainly talented enough to do so, but that's a hell of a time.
Yeah, well, I'm going to pop down to the interview booth and have a quick chat with Will Dendy. So, Dan, Steve, I'll be back with you guys in just a second. Well, now speaking to the number 97 of Sancho Simsport 2's Will Dendy. Will, not exactly the qualifying session that you wanted to have. Obviously, I understand that you've had some connection problems, buddy. But to have the opportunity to compete in such a race like this, it must be quite good, because for those wondering, Will is also a real-life racing driver. But you're not too shabby behind the wheel of a sim, buddy.
When my connection works. I would like to do a bit of commentary on the stream, but I see about 8 pixels on YouTube. So, thanks for having me on, Alex. It's really frustrating because Tobin and I were separated by 6 thousandths in practice just before qualifying, and then all of a sudden my internet's chosen to give up. So we've got it all to do on Sunday.
But that's definitely a good challenge to have, though. 12 hours. You've got plenty to move ahead on there. So it is on Saturday. We'll get October 3rd, Saturday midday. We go green. But you turn up on Sunday. No one else to be here with you to race, buddy. But the challenge of starting from the back of the field is something quite interesting as well, because we know that through qualifying, okay, it's great to be fighting for that pole position lap time. But at the end of the day, it's not where you start, it's where you finish is more important in an endurance race, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I'm okay at qualifying, but my strength is more in the race, like looking after the tyres and making my way through the field. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about starting from the back. And, in half an hour, hopefully we should be more towards the front. And yeah, it might make it a bit more, like it would have been really cool to run nose to tail with Tobin and the Coach Academy Dave guys. But yeah, it's a different challenge moving through the field.
Well, Will, all the very best of luck for this coming Saturday, mate. Look forward to seeing how you get on.
Is Alex see you on Sunday if my connection has anything to do with it?
Well, Saturday, don't forget. It's Saturday.
Connection's slow, I'll probably be racing on Sunday.
Yeah, you might have to put a note on your phone just to remind you. But have a good evening, Will. Thanks for talking.
Cheers, Alex. You too. Bye.
Bye. So that was a very good conversation there with Will Dendy. Obviously, Dan, I think there's going to be... He's very, very true on what he said, that qualifying is not always the best at, but then going through the race, it's something completely different altogether, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Will's confident in himself. He knows his ability, and he is incredibly quick. Like I said, he was, 0.006 of a second off of Tobin. So, I mean, to be honest, it's one of those things where it's a bit of a shame that it's happened. However, it does present new challenges. It presents potentially a more interesting start to the race in another aspect. I think realistically, I was saying before, while it does give you that slight, in terms of like a positive mentality, because if you're qualifying further up the field, at the same time, it's 12 hours. It's not a 30-minute sprint where you have to try and get past people at every single corner and every single opportunity that presents itself. It's something that you can really work through. You can work through the field. You can be more. You have to sort of think a bit more. I've completely lost my train of thought here. I'm gonna have to quickly just backtrack on that.
I think you're going to have to do a bit of control out and delete there, buddy.
I know. Yeah. So, but no, Will very much knows his. He very much knows his capability. I'm sure. Come the start of the race, and as you said, within the first half hour, he's going to have a rhythm, and I think we're going to be in a much better position than when we're starting in P14.
So, just as Dan has just been speaking there, I've noticed a few changes in the order. Steve Haley now down in 5th place in the number 42 Porsche, behind the number 4 of Adam Misalovic from Simsport 4. But then the number 11 of Griffax Engineering's Sebastian Handler now goes up into P3. And Steve, top 5 covered by just over 8 tenths.
Yeah, I was watching those times as you were chatting with Dan there, and I was going back to what I was saying. It is all going to change, and it has. Adam, that is an absolutely awesome time from that guy. People that watch the Simsport Racing leagues know that Adam is he's a lad that puts the effort in, he puts the practice in, and he's sort of like a mid to front field finisher all the time. He's a good driver, and that is a brilliant time just to edge Steve Haley back into 5th place. Sebastian, great time, 2:03.5. So they're hotting up, they're doing the best laps, and they've saved the best till the end. So they've got 5 minutes to go now, so a couple more laps each, and let's see what they can do. But that 2:02.937 hasn't been beaten yet, and I don't think it will be. Well, Kieran Vidago has just said 3 Astons, 3 Porsches. Let's change that. Well, that depends on what happens in just over 4.5 minutes time. Running order at the moment in terms of the provisional grid on the fight for pole position. James Parker in the 889 Aston for Coach Dave Academy leads the way on a 2-minute 2.937, 3.5 tenths quicker than Tobin Lee from the number 87 of Sancho Simsport. Sebastian Handler from Griffax Engineering rounds out the top 3, who, as the number 11 Aston, is in the pits. Adam Isalovic in the number 4 of Simsport 4 in the Porsche Cayman. He rounds out the top 4 ahead of Steve Haley in the Simsport 1 number 42 Porsche. Then it's the 747 of Team Terra Racing's Porsche in the hands of Bliv AK, who rounds out the top 6 ahead of the 299 of SG Stern's Mercedes of Lucas Müller, with Alex Sabel in the number 1 PPR Esports Audi rounding out the top 8, followed by Sean Bennett in the 411 MSB Racing Aston Martin, with Johan Nell in 10th place. And that is for the Logistical Nightmare 177
Aston Martin GT4 with... hang on a second. I think, well, I did see Will Dendy's name pick up on the timing, but it hasn't on the timing on the screens at home. So Johan Nel, Tom van der Meer, and looks like Ugo La Sala all running still on the circuit. And now we get into the last 3 minutes here. And I've just noticed James Parker has just done a 2-minute 2.961. I think he's going to try and break that record again, isn't he, Dan?
I would be surprised if he didn't. I think what you've probably had is, I doubt there'll be anyone now jumping into the pits for a fresh set of tyres, because it takes a couple of laps. You see James Parker on your screen now. Yeah, what you'll find is everyone now is out on track. They're going to be driving now to the end. The cars take at least 2 laps to warm up. Realistically, they're not going to get 2 laps in if they come out of the pits now. So I think this is going to be 2.5 minutes of frantic driving from everyone. You can actually see, so you've got James Parker and Tobin Lee, 3 tenths. You've got then 2 tenths behind is P3. So the gap's not as close as we were seeing in the GT3 car for the top 3 anyway, especially. Although, as we can see, P3, P4, there's only 600ths in it. So there's still positions to be made up. I am sure there's still positions to be swapped around in these last 2 minutes of qualifying. Make no mistake.
I think, Steve, that could possibly be mainly between Handler, Isalovic and Haley, who complete the top 5. They're covered by just over 1.5 coming into the last 2 minutes of qualifying. Any one of those 3 drivers could really, really do a good job there as we go on board now on the front splitter cam of Tobin Lee, as he's going to cross the line to start another lap, as that was an outlap from the number 87. So this is his last attempt to try and see if he can close up and get that 3.5 tenths plus back to him. As James Parker, I think you were very much right there, Dan. But Steve, Handler, Isalovic and Haley, I think, are the biggest battle here in qualifying. 1.5 apart or there or thereabouts. This could be where the real battle could be for qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. It could all change again in the last couple of laps. Steve Haley could redeem himself and get himself back up to 3rd place. Steve's a very capable driver. He could even get up to 2nd place, but I'm not quite sure the Porsche is suiting him at the moment. But and don't count Bliv out. He's showing that he's a second down, but he's just done his best lap of the session with a 2:03.9. So he'll be on a roll now. He'll be carrying on that pace, and he'll carry on into this lap. So he's certainly capable of the times that covering the top 3-4 now. So yeah, definitely, it's between those guys.
So James Parker now has decided, well, I'm going to call it a day. He was literally within 20 thousandths of his best lap time a couple of laps ago. He's now parked it in the pits. As we go on board on the left side of the 87 of Tobin Lee from Zhangzhou Simsport. Chris Crossman, thank you very much for the £10 donation. Really, really do appreciate that. As the timer now counts away, 15 seconds to go. Will Tobin Lee manage to get one up on James Parker from Coach Dave Academy? We are seconds away from finding out. He's going to go into the right-hander at Advan for the final time before the NGK chicane. And looks like Tobin Lee very committed through there, wasn't he, Dan?
Yeah, I think he ran a little bit wide going onto the back straight. It probably cost him a good 200ths of a second there. So last corner looks to be okay. We don't want to be running too wide, like I was saying in the hot lap video, but it looks to be relatively clean. Not too sure what time this is going to be. I don't think it's going to be an improvement on his last one, and I don't believe it was. No,
it was a 2-minute 4.092. So that means that James Parker provisionally secures pole position for GT4 ahead of Tobin Lee. Sebastian Handler in the number 11 takes 3rd. Stephen Haley will cross the line on his final attempt, will only take 5th. He did not improve on that lap. He was close, though. He did a 2-minute 3.747 on his best lap. The last lap around, it was a 2-minute 3.798. So if he'd have put another half a tenth there, he would have been, well, over half a tenth. He would have been up in terms of time, but not in terms of position. Lucas Muller now coming through the Schumacher S's for the final time. Bliv AK will start 6th. Valentin Knechtel will start in 10th. Tom van der Meer in 12th. Hugo Lozada will take 13th. As we just wait for the likes of, so the PPR Esports #1 car of Alex Sable now comes through towards the far part of the circuit and is one of 3 drivers still circulating on the track at the moment. So Sable now will head through towards Advan for the final time. So Isalovic, Müller have decided to park it, as has Sean Bennett in the 411 from MSB Racing. So Alex Sable now comes through the NGK chicane, now through into the Coca-Cola corner, and pulls the Audi to the left-hand side, and that is it. Job is done. Well, firstly, congratulations to Coach Dave Academy's James Parker for securing pole position. These results that have been called in both the GT3 and the GT4 sessions are provisional, pending any previous, any sort of sporting checks and stewarding inquiries post qualification. But Steve, just give us your first thoughts on that. I mean, what a great lap from James Parker.
Yeah, I didn't think that lap was going to get beaten. It's an awesome lap to get into the 202s with the GT4s. Very, very good lap. And Tobin, he was pushing hard, as we could see. Like Dan said, he ran wide in the couple of the corners and crucially onto the back straight there, which will have cost him a little bit of time. But yeah, absolutely awesome qualifying by all the guys, and well done to everybody. Just a little bit unfortunate for Will Dendy, but as he said in the interview, it's qualifying's done now. Race day, I'm sure they'll be there. He's got 12 hours to make it all up.
And Dan, this is going to be just as exciting as GT3, even though we've got 14 teams coming into the smaller category. It's going to be still action-packed all the way from lights out to checkered flag.
100%. There's going to be, as you said, there's going to be just as much action, if not more action potentially in the GT4. Who knows? But yeah, all we know is we can guarantee there's going to be some insanely close racing between the GT3s and the GT4s respectively. I can't wait. Obviously, I'm participating as well on Saturday, which is even more exciting for me. But I think even if I wasn't, it would be, just as exciting really to watch throughout the 12 hours. It's going to be incredible to watch.
Definitely. Well, I'm going to now head down to the interview booth and hopefully speak to some drivers. So Dan, Steve, I'll be with you in just a couple of moments. Right, well, congratulations on pole position, James Parker in the Coach Dave Academy 889 Vantage GT. Well done. That was a fantastic lap. We were keeping our eyes peeled on what you were doing, but how did you pull that one out of the bag? That was pretty rapid.
Yeah, good evening, guys. I don't know, really. I knew there was a point turn it from practice this week, and I wasn't sure what the track temperature was going to be in the quali session, so it could have swung either way. And I knew that in practice, Tobin was obviously right on my tail. It was very close, and so I knew I needed to produce something in quali. And yeah, I had 0.8 in the delta, which I messed up on my final run towards the end. But yeah, mega chuffed against the twos, and yeah, the car felt great. I couldn't have been happier, really.
And obviously, Tobin Lee kept you on your toes. Let's be completely honest, James. You two were separated by just 15 thousandths. I think it was coming towards the midpoint of quali, but you're both in the same machinery, and you guys go into battle. For 12 hours come Saturday afternoon. It's going to be an interesting one, isn't it, with the way that the track will degrade over the period of the 12-hour race?
Yeah, I mean, with equal cars, I think it'll come down to the traffic management side of things, I guess. I mean, nailing a lap in quali is one thing, but obviously for 12 hours with GT3s passing you probably every 200 yards with the amount of cars there is in that class, it's just going to be about managing the traffic and exploiting any weakness in there, really, because as you've seen from today's quali session, the team's going to be so evenly matched pace-wise, but we're not going to have a clean track at all in the 12 hours, apart from maybe the first 40 minutes to take advantage of it. So, yeah, we'll just stick to our strategy for the first 11 hours. We won't fight really anyone, I don't suspect. Mm-hmm. And then come the final hour, when it's showtime, really, we'll see what we've got and try and attack from there. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to a close race between us and Tobin and Team Zan show, and I think it'll be very close. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
All the very best of luck for Saturday, James, to you and all the drivers. So Joe McCauley and Vicky Thompson, who's on the crew with you on the 889 Aston Martin. Good luck on Saturday.
No worries, guys. Good evening. Take care.
So next up, we'll speak to Griphax Engineering's Sebastian Handler. And Sebastian, firstly, congratulations on third place on the grid for Saturday's race. But Tobin Lee and James Parker were very, very quick in their own rights in terms of the lap times at the Nürburgring. Is that something that phases you ahead of the 12-hour race?
Well, yeah, of course it does, and thank you for the congratulations. I'll be honest, we are not sure how to beat the Coach Dave car. They are insanely fast, but I'm pretty sure we can at least fight for the second place. My teammate I don't know, you're probably aware of the sim grid.
Yeah.
So Joe is my teammate in the Sim Grid World Cup, and I know how fast he is. Our only chance to even get close to that Coach Dave car might be with their third driver. I think she's a bit slower. Not by much, but that might be our only chance to even get close to that car. Otherwise, they are just woo. They're just gone. They're just too quick.
Off into the distance. Well, Sebastian, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations on the position you guys have got at Griphax Engineering, and all the very best of luck at the Nürburgring.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, looks like we've got MSB Racing's Sean Bennett in the 411. Good evening, Sean. How are you?
Good evening. Thanks. Frustrated, really, but that's how it is.
But I think I've mentioned this multiple points, not just through GT3 but also the GT4 qualification, that it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish, and I'm sure that's the attitude that you guys at MSB will have, where you've got Jesper and Michael on your team in the 411 Aston Martin. That's something that could help to play to your strengths, couldn't it?
Yes. Also, being a little bit further back, there's not so many cars behind us for the first corner possible incident. So yeah, we're just hoping for a nice clean race, and we've been working a lot on traffic management, which is going to be key in this race. It's such quite a small track, and a lot of GT3 cars. So losing the least amount of time behind those or racing with those is going to be key to success.
Well, Sean, I wish you, Jesper and Michael all the very best of luck in the 411 MSB Racing Aston Martin for Saturday at the 12 hours. All the very best of luck.
Much, guys. See you Saturday.
So that concludes our action here for the GT4 qualification. That is it for your coverage here on Wednesday evening. And Dan, Steve, I think we've heard all we need to hear from the drivers. We now have to concentrate on the lights going green here in the Eifel region, virtually speaking, at 12 noon British summertime on Saturday, the 3rd of October. I think, Dan, you're going to have to give Wendy a little bit of a nudge to say to him, it is Saturday, remember? But it's, I think, 47 cars heading down to the Haughaken for the first time, for the first lap, for 12 hours. It's going to run on a 24-hour style server, so it will go through the night, but it will be run over a 12-hour period. This is going to be an epic race, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's going to be. There's going to be action absolutely everywhere. As you say, 950 cars going into turn one. It's, yeah, I can't even begin to imagine what that's going to look like. Obviously, come 12 o'clock when we're all sitting on the grid, and we're all sort of, I can imagine there's going to be some nail biting going on, at least for the first 2 or 3 laps at least. But honestly, I think I'm as excited as everyone is, both drivers, spectators, people that are going to be watching on the live stream, and also yourselves as well for commentating. It's just going to be absolutely amazing, and I genuinely can't wait.
Steve, I'll ask for your final thoughts now. The hype has been absolutely Herculean, especially with the big announcements that we've had. Jack McIntyre has just announced that he will be racing with Jenson Button and Dave Marshall for the 12 hours of the Nürburgring. That's going to be an interesting trio there. But the hype has been really, really well received. You know, we've had so much outreach from the sim racing community and also the real life racing community, and we're now nearly at £1,600 raised for Mind so far. It's been such a great journey, and that journey has yet to truly begin until we go green light at noon on Saturday.
Absolutely, the sim racing community, the real world racing community sort of come together, and they just, you know, want to thank everybody for all their input into this event. As I said earlier, the admins have worked mega hard on this. It's not an easy thing to bring together and put together. Mike on the production side of things is doing a fantastic job, and thank you very much to everybody who's donated so far, and the guys this evening on the stream. It's absolutely awesome. It's great to see the donations come in as we're chatting away about the racing. But yeah, the race is going to be awesome. I wouldn't want to call it 12 hours. Who knows what's going to happen. The first corner, as any race, is going to be crucial. It's got to be clean. They need to stay out of trouble. And then, as Dan alluded earlier, I think when we're talking about GT3s, maybe track cuts, things like that, could affect people with drive-throughs. You know, there's so many factors. We may get rain, and as we said, you know, they're driving through a 24-hour cycle in 12 hours, so they will get the nighttime driving as well, and that will hamper the GT4s with the very cold temperatures in the evening.
So that is it for qualifying. 11:45, Saturday, the 3rd of October 2020. The live stream for the official 2020 Simsport Racing 12 hours of the Nürburgring gets underway. Join us then for what is going to be a fantastic 12-hour race. Over 100 plus drivers, 47 teams, 47 cars, including GT3 and GT4 machinery. This is one you need to put into your diaries. Thank you for tuning in with both myself, Alex Goldschmidt, Steve Proudley, and a big thank you to Dan Handover for joining us as well. Good night, stay safe, stay healthy, and what's more, make sure that you donate, because we are supporting Mind for better mental health. Thank you for watching. Good evening. See you on Saturday.
As I nearly always say, two heads are better than one, especially when it comes to our mental health. But talking about it for the first time is not easy. So we need your help to let everyone know that if they're struggling, it's okay to say. A bunch of us from all walks of life have made films sharing our conversations. Now, we would love you to get involved by making and sharing your own film with the person that you go to when you need a chat. Now, I'm certainly no vlogspert, but here are 3 tips for making your own film. Ask the person you spoke to if they'd be happy to talk about your conversation on camera. Pick a place where you're both comfortable. Pick up your phone and get recording. It can be as long or as short as you like. If you're both happy with your masterpiece, upload it online and tag us using #OKToSay. Remember, your film will help change the conversation on mental health for everyone. So be proud of the difference you're making. Thank you.